Everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Healthcare GTM Show. Today, we are diving into a topic that sits at the center of every healthcare marketing campaign, but often gets overlooked once the ads are live, the landing page. Healthcare companies spend heavily to drive traffic, but conversion happens or doesn't happen on that final page experience. To help us unpack what separates high performing healthcare landing pages from the ones that quietly lose opportunities, I am joined by Elisa. Elisa, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's jump right in. So, healthcare companies spend significant budget driving traffic through ads, email, and events, but the landing page is where most of that investment either pays or quietly dies. In your experience, why do healthcare landing pages underperform, and what's the root cause most teams completely miss?
It's a fair question. And I think, of course, it's not just about pharmaceutical and this industry. It happens across, the board. It's challenging nowadays to attract the attention of an audience, any audience. But when we talk about these industries specifically, I think there are several barriers, and I think these barriers are threefold. One is more technical. You need to consider that the kind of information that these companies are trying to share with the audience are very sensitive. So they need to be protected. They need to be sure that they are talking to verified HCPs, which translate very often into login walls. And we know that anytime you put some kind of friction, the audience might just bounce. So this is just an additional aspect that we need to consider. But from my point of view, the key will always be transactional, meaning value. What kind of value are we offering to these time poor HCPs? Because if there is no, clear value of why they should be there, that's when you lose them for sure. And these bring me to the last point, that is, content and segmentation. Because let's be honest, in my role as a strategy lead, I can build you a very sophisticated strategic pipeline. But the moment that the content is not actually responding to the segmentation that we have built upstream with first or third party data, that disconnection is going to cost you your audience. What I mean is, when you speak to a specialist or a GP or a pharmacist, they can't be seeing the same content. And way too often, these landing page are static. Think about it. When you log into your Netflix account or your Amazon, what do you like about it? Is the fact that it's custom to you. And HCPs are not different, actually, even better. So these are the aspects, I think, that we need to consider, above all in the time of we are living now with AI. And we know that HCPs, around 60% of them at global level, depend on which source you're looking at, don't quote me, are using models for decision making. So there is a high percentage that they might even never have a reason to land on your website. This is something that all of these are consideration that needs to be made.
That's very interesting, Alicia. Like a very valuable point you said about barriers and most importantly, values. Because most people generally focus on generating traffic first and they just let go all of these points. So that's really valuable to us. So moving on to the second question. Healthcare is evidence driven. Buyers want proof before they act. So, how important is credible data on a healthcare landing page, and what does credible actually looks like to a healthcare buyer?
Look, I think this is something that this industry understood long time ago and is doing well. You need to consider that if your communication and scientific narrative is driven and originated via medical affair and evidence teams, you are in the right hands. Let's be honest, HCPs are skeptical and they are expert in what they do. So it's obvious that they want to speak with someone that is giving them evidence, and these can be done through peer-to-peer reviews, KOLs, attending congresses. So I think healthcare is definitely doing well in this context. Could it be done even better? For sure. Amplification is something that sometimes fails. You can have great content, as we said before, but you need to put it in front of your audience. And that is pretty much how I spend my time in my day to day. Reaching HCPs at scale is key. And above all, in a very challenging region like Europe, where we have data restricted and heavily regulated environment to work with. So this is another aspect that we need to take into consideration, because again, you can have that great content and then no one is going to see it. So that is something that we need to pay attention to. And then, for example, is where paid media can definitely play a big role into this. And then, of course, as we all know, the moment that you include any commercial or marketing lingo dress up as clinical evidence, that's the moment you lose your HCP again.
And thank you for this highlight that you highlighted. Credibility is very important, especially in case of data. And this is actually very interesting. And the compliance focus is also very, very interesting. So moving about towards the execution of the data. So can you walk us through what a well-built healthcare landing page looks like? What does it need to do differently? And what would you cut immediately if you are auditing one day?
Look, well done, landing page. Oof. Tough question, but I think I will go back to those barriers, but also opportunities we mentioned earlier. If you are able to segment and offer the right content, so give value to your audience, that is what a good landing page should look like. What I will personally, remove, well, I don't know. We go back like any testimonials or big claim, like 9 out of 10 doctors use our drug, or whatever it might look like, is too pushy. So rather than maybe cutting per se, what I was thinking is what we could add. As we mentioned before, we are in a time and age where AI models have taken over. And why then don't meet your HCPs where they are? Meaning, if they land on your landing page, why don't you speak that same language, offering them a model, your own LLM model, that can provide those answers in a quick way, is highly accurate, is context aware, and is always available. You can do that by creating your own RAG model. RAG is just a retrieval augmented generative model. In simple terms, the laboratory would simply build a kind of a library, which is then used to train your own LLM. You can fit it with anything you can think about, your studies, your KOL interviews, anything that you will use to train a MSL, and then offer it to your HCPs. And I think that would definitely be a plus that I haven't seen yet. And it will make the laboratory being seen as an ally, because it's science on demand. So, that is something I would think I would add. Yes, it could be quite a challenge. It could take time. And that's why, for example, there are tech vendors out there that have already done the legwork for these pharmaceutical. I'm thinking, for example, about Dockery that has recently released a digital twin. Again, in simple terms, a digital twin is simply mapping a process that has been done over and over in a company and an organization, and recreate that workflow digitally using AI tools, agents to automatize it. So I would think that that is something I would implement and I would recommend looking into.
Very insightful. Adding to that, I just have one more question. So, if you have to highlight one thing healthcare marketers tend to overcomplicate, what would that be?
Look, I hope no one gets offended. We are all professionals here and we all want to improve. So I would say two things. First, the organization is so siloed sometimes that you have creative and you have medical affair and you have marketing and commercial and they don't speak to each other. And of course, this shows eventually in the marketing plans or how disconnected the key messages are. So that is definitely something that you know should be addressed. And the other one, this is a more personal view. I think that pharma has a bit of a chip on their shoulder. I hear so many marketeer people say, oh, we are so restricted. We can't do this, we can't do that. And it's true, it's challenging. But why not taking advantage of what is actually available in the market right now in terms of tech and innovation? That is another of my responsibility towards my client: channel innovation, digital transformation. There are so many things nowadays that can be done, and I totally get it. The process will be long because there are legislative and regulatory aspects that we need to go through, and the framework are complicated. But I think we need a change in mentality. We need, as they say here in Spain, we need to change the chip. And I think that one of the value that I bring to my clients, for example, is the fact that because I have a diverse background, I said I work in B2C and B2B, and I'm hybrid. I've been client, I've been agency. I have that outside in perspective, and that definitely help, with thinking out the box. So if we could straight line the way this organization work internally, and if we could just even be open to new tech and new channels, I think that will be definitely a way to simplify the work we are trying.
Actually, so you're trying to pitch in that they are very conservative in their approach to taking in applications, which is very true. Next question: what is the most common mistake healthcare companies make when trying to reach HCPs through a landing page versus a hospital administrator or procurement lead?
I'm not, I'm more focused on HCPs per se, but I will go back to the fact of how to bring value through segmentation. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I don't think it's so complicated. It's actually a clear formula that can be replicated for different audiences if done correctly. You know, you need to know your audience to really understand their needs. And there is a major difference between these two audiences. In the case of hospital or procurement leads, they are asking different questions. They are about cost. They are interested in how to implement something new into their workflows. So, what I'm trying to say is that they are more ROI driven, while HCP, as we said several times, they are time poor, they are clinical evidence driven. So, there is a fundamental difference that is time. It's very likely that someone from procurement will spend lots of time dissecting the information on your website and eventually maybe get in touch. So, are we sure that we are offering these very different information and value to all our audience? We go back there. If your website is static and is built for everyone, is actually valuable to nobody.
very insightful? You telling that we have to provide value as per the requirement, and that's how we have to take it forward. So, before we wrap up, what do you think more healthcare marketing professionals should be sharing practical insights like this openly?
I think from where I see it, there are two reasons. The first is a little bit more performative. Pharma is doesn't have uh, a big digital literacy when it comes to insight on how to reach their audience or engage, as we said during this chat. In B2C, there are bodies like YAB, that is the Integrative Advertising Bureau, that has been around for decades. They study advertisement, they study communication channels, is something that is very valuable for those working in those industries. And then you need to consider there is Cannes or the Clears Awards that have been around for even longer, and they showcase excellence in our communication industry. So, why shouldn't we do the same and share insights, maybe challenge each other to do better every time? And then I think there is a more ethical reason, which is, I hope, shared by everyone in this industry, that ultimately we are here to improve patient lives. This is actually the reason I changed industry back in the days. I wanted to know that my work, even if indirectly, even if in a small, tiny portion, is helping someone to improve their lives. And if there is a way to cut through the noise, engage in a meaningful way with HCPs, and shorten the window between clinical evidence release and the new diagnose that a patient can actually receive, why shouldn't we? So I think this is the most important thing that this niche industry needs to take into consideration. I know, of course, we are also talking, I'm not naive, we're talking about big laboratories, we're talking about commercial goals and sales and ROI, of course. But let's not forget that the ultimate value that moves us is that we're doing something important here. So I think that's the reason why we should all come together, like in forums like yours. We need them even, bigger. I hope this grows and we can even meet in person with all our colleagues eventually. In the future. So I'm very positive about this initiative, and I hope more and more people jump on it.
Thank you so much, Anisha. And it is indeed, we would like to make it big and we want it to be very successful. So that obviously we want to meet you in person very much and everybody else from the same industry. Thank you for sharing your insights with us today, and thank you to everyone watching. If you found value in this conversation, stay tuned for more discussions with healthcare GTM leaders as we explore what actually working across healthcare marketing, growth, and commercialization. See you in the next episode. Thank you.